"I'll pay double if you have a black card," the man said loudly, smirking as the waitress froze in shock. The restaurant went silent. Every head turned toward the table near the window, where a tall man in a gray suit leaned back in his chair, his gold watch glinting under the soft lights. Across from him sat a young black girl, maybe 20, no older, wearing a plain white top and jeans. The man's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Go on," he said. "Show us that fancy black card of yours, sweetheart. Or did you just come here to take pictures and pretend you belong?" A few people at nearby tables chuckled. The waitress looked embarrassed, her tray trembling in her hands. The girl didn't speak. She looked down at the tablecloth, her fingers gently tracing the edge of her phone. The man laughed again. "Oh, come on, don't be shy. You said this meal's on you, right? Let's see that black card. I'll pay double for my meal if you actually have one." Her eyes finally lifted, and there was something cold in her stare. "You sure you want to do that?" she asked softly. He smirked, confident. "I'm sure." The girl reached slowly into her small purse. The restaurant air seemed to hold its breath. Even the soft piano music had stopped playing. She pulled out a sleek black card and placed it gently on the table. The man blinked. The waitress gasped. Someone near the bar whispered, "That's a Centurion card." The girl smiled faintly and looked him in the eye. "You might want to call your bank before you try to pay double." The man's grin faded. Who are you?" Before she could answer, a tall woman in a black suit hurried from the back of the restaurant, whispering urgently to the manager. The manager's face turned pale as he looked toward the girl, then rushed to her table. "Miss Carter," he said quickly, almost stuttering. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were here tonight. Please forgive any disrespect shown by our guests or staff." The entire restaurant froze. The man's jaw dropped. Miss Carter, the CEO's daughter. And that's when everything changed. But to understand how it all started, and why that moment happened, we need to go back to where it began, 3 days earlier. It had been a hot Thursday afternoon in downtown Chicago. The sun bounced off glass buildings, and people hurried down the sidewalks, clutching iced coffees and phones. In a small apartment on the city's south side, Alyssa Carter was standing in front of her mirror, frowning at her reflection. Her curly hair was tied back into a ponytail, and her clothes were simple: a white top, dark jeans, and clean sneakers. She looked neat, but nothing about her screamed wealthy. And that was exactly what she wanted. Alyssa was tired of being treated differently because of who her father was, Marcus Carter, the CEO of one of the biggest restaurant groups in the country. He owned the very same luxury chain where that man would later mock her. But Alyssa never liked using her father's name to get special treatment. That day, she was on a mission. She had overheard her father talking about one of his restaurants, Le Summit, and how some customers had complained about certain people being treated poorly by the staff. Alyssa knew what certain people meant. She had grown up hearing whispers, fake smiles, and subtle insults aimed at her mother for being black in high-class spaces. So, she decided to visit the restaurant without revealing who she was. No bodyguards, no fancy car, no name drop. Just her and her card. She wanted to see how the staff treated regular customers, especially someone who looked like her. When she told her best friend, Jasmine, about her plan, Jasmine had laughed. "Girl, you're really about to go undercover? Like, full-on secret shopper style." "Exactly," Alyssa said. "I need to know the truth." Jasmine shook her head. "You better not go viral if they mess with you." Alyssa had laughed then, but deep down, she knew there was a real risk. By the time she reached Le Summit, the sun was setting. The restaurant glowed golden from the inside, all glass walls, velvet chairs, and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. A valet stood outside, bowing slightly as customers pulled up in sleek cars. Alyssa arrived in a regular Uber. When she stepped out, wearing her simple clothes, the valet barely glanced at her. Inside, the hostess gave her a strained smile, the kind that hides judgment. "Good evening," Alyssa said politely. Table for one, please. The hostess looked her up and down. Do you have a reservation? No, but I can wait if. I'm sorry, the hostess interrupted, we're fully booked tonight. Alyssa glanced at the empty tables in the corner. Are you sure? It looks like. Those are for VIPs, the hostess said quickly, cutting her off. Alyssa's heart tightened, but she smiled calmly. I see. She started to turn around when a man's voice came from behind her. Don't worry, I'm sure she can sit near the kitchen. That's where the staff eat, right? The hostess laughed politely, though her face flushed red. Alyssa turned and saw him, the same man who would later shout about paying double. His name, she'd later learn, was Daniel Walker, a finance consultant who thought the world revolved around him. He was with two friends, all dressed in suits, reeking of arrogance. Alyssa forced a polite smile. I didn't realize comedy nights started early. Daniel smirked. Relax, sweetheart. I'm just saying, this place is for people who can actually afford it. The hostess looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Alyssa felt heat rising in her chest, but she kept her cool. I'll take a table for one, she said firmly. And you can charge me extra if you want. That caught the hostess off guard. She quickly looked down at the reservation sheet, then nodded stiffly. Very well, ma'am. Right this way. As Alyssa followed her, Daniel whispered something to his friends and laughed. She ignored him. Dinner started quietly. Alyssa ordered pasta and sparkling water, trying to enjoy her meal. The waiter, a young man named Brian, was kind at first but changed tone when Daniel called him over. Hey Brian! Daniel shouted across the room. You got Wi-Fi back there? The girl might need it to check her balance before paying. A few people laughed. Alyssa froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Brian looked torn, not sure what to say. Sir, please, he said softly. Daniel waved his hand. I'm just joking. Come on, lighten up. But it wasn't funny. It was humiliating. And the worst part was, Alyssa could see other people smiling. That quiet, cruel smile people wear when they think they're better than you. She felt something inside her twist, a mix of anger and sadness. But she didn't respond. She'd seen this kind of behavior before, even as a child. She remembered how her mother would smile politely through dinners where waiters ignored her until her father spoke up. Alyssa had promised herself she wouldn't cry. Not in front of them. Halfway through dinner, Daniel came over to her table, pretending to be friendly. So, he said, what do you do? Instagram influencer? Student? Maybe you're here to celebrate payday. Alyssa looked up, her eyes calm. I'm here for dinner, she said simply. He laughed. Come on, I'm just trying to make conversation. You look a little out of place, that's all. She tilted her head. Out of place. Daniel leaned in. This isn't the kind of place you see. You know, your type hanging around. Alyssa blinked. My type. He grinned. You know what I mean. The words hung in the air, heavy, sharp, and poisonous. That's when the waitress, nervous and sweating, came by with the bill. Will you both be paying separately or together? Daniel grinned, grabbing the check. No, she insisted she's got it covered. Said she'll pay for everyone. Said she's got a black card. I didn't say that, Alyssa said, her tone even but tight. He ignored her. I'll tell you what, I'll pay double if she can actually show us a black card. That's when everything in the restaurant froze, and that's when she finally reached into her purse. The black card shimmered under the light, its metal surface catching every stare. The whispers started instantly. Is that real? She's got a Centurion card. Wait, that's the CEO's daughter. That's Marcus Carter's girl. Daniel's face went pale. He looked like he'd swallowed something bitter. The manager rushed over, nearly tripping over his own feet. Miss Carter, he said quickly, his voice trembling. I'm so sorry. If I had known. Alyssa raised her hand, stopping him. Don't apologize to me, she said quietly. Apologize to every person who's ever been treated like this just because they didn't look like money. The room went silent again. Daniel tried to speak but couldn't. Alyssa stood up, leaving the card on the table. You can keep the bill, she said. I don't need proof to belong anywhere. She walked out slowly, her head high. Cameras flashed from phones. Some people clapped softly. Others just watched, ashamed. Outside, the night air hit her face, cool and calm. She took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. She hadn't meant for it to happen like that. She just wanted to see how people behaved when they didn't know who she was. But now it was out there. The next morning, the video of that moment would go viral. And that would be the start of something even bigger. Something she wasn't ready for. The restaurant buzzed with quiet conversation and the soft clinking of silverware, but to Naomi, everything felt muffled, like she was trapped underwater. Her heart still hammered from the incident at the front. The words, "I'll pay double if you have a black card," replayed in her mind, sharp as broken glass. She sat at the corner booth, staring down at the menu she didn't really see. Across from her sat her best friend, Maya, her face still twisted with disbelief. "Naomi, are you okay?" Maya asked gently. Naomi blinked and looked up, forcing a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." But she wasn't. She could still feel the sting of humiliation, like a fire that wouldn't burn out. She had come here just to relax after a long week of college work, never expecting to be insulted so publicly. The waiter, the one who had earlier looked at her with disgust, kept throwing nervous glances their way now. It was almost funny. Just a few minutes ago, he had treated her like she didn't belong, and now he was walking on eggshells. Naomi looked at him, then at the elegant, glass-walled dining area around her. The chandeliers glowed softly, and the scent of garlic butter filled the air. Everything about this place screamed wealth and class. And yet, when she had walked in, the only thing they saw was her skin color. She clenched her jaw and straightened her shoulders. "You know what, Maya?" she said, her voice firmer now. "I'm not going to let this ruin my night." Maya smiled. "That's my girl." Naomi nodded, though deep down, anger simmered beneath her calm. Not just anger at the waiter, or the man who had made that cruel offer, but at a system that made people like her feel like outsiders. No matter how hard they worked, no matter who they really were. After a while, the waiter approached again, this time bowing slightly. "Ma'am, the manager would like to offer you a complimentary meal to apologize for the misunderstanding earlier." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "A complimentary meal?" "Yes, ma'am. The gentleman who made the remark has been escorted out of the premises. We sincerely apologize for the behavior you experienced." Maya frowned. "So he just gets escorted out? That's it." The waiter hesitated. "We, can't control what customers say, miss. But we do take complaints seriously." Naomi sighed. She could tell the waiter was trying to sound sincere, but there was still that uneasy stiffness in his tone. He wasn't sorry about what happened. He was sorry he might get in trouble for it. "Still," she nodded. "Tell your manager I appreciate the apology." He gave a quick nod and walked off. When he was gone, Maya leaned forward. "You should tell your dad about this, Naomi. You know he won't let it slide." Naomi's lips tightened. "I will. But not yet." "Why not?" Naomi looked around the restaurant, her eyes taking in every detail: the gold-accented walls, the marble floors, the waiters moving about in black and white uniforms. Then her gaze landed on the large portrait near the front desk. A smiling man in a navy blue suit, arms crossed proudly. Mr. Alan Robertson, the founder and CEO of the Palmetto Grill, and Naomi's father. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same restaurant her father had built from scratch, the one he took pride in for being a place for everyone, had just humiliated his own daughter. Naomi's chest tightened as memories flooded back. Late nights watching her dad draw up business plans at the kitchen table, the stories he told about struggling to open his first location, and how he wanted to make sure no one ever feels small in my restaurant. If only he knew what just happened. Maya followed her gaze and whispered, "That's him, right? Your dad." Naomi nodded slowly. "Yeah. Naomi, you have to tell him." Naomi didn't answer. She was thinking, her mind racing. Her dad was flying in tomorrow to check on the new location. This one. Maybe it was better if he saw it for himself, if he felt what she had just felt. But first, she wanted to know who these people really were. The waiter, the hostess, the manager. She wanted to see how far their misunderstanding would go. "Let's just finish dinner," Naomi said finally. "I'll handle the rest tomorrow." Maya nodded slowly, though she still looked uneasy. As they ate, Naomi kept her expression calm, but her thoughts were miles away. She imagined her father walking in, proud and confident, and wondered what he would say if he'd been there earlier when that man made the offer. Would he have lost his temper? Would he have fired everyone on the spot? The thought made her smirk slightly. By the time they finished eating, the waiter returned with a smile that was just a little too forced. "Everything satisfactory, ma'am?" "Yes," Naomi said simply. "Wonderful. And again, we're terribly sorry for earlier." Naomi gave him a look that made him swallow hard. "Next time, maybe don't assume who belongs here and who doesn't." He froze, nodded quickly, and hurried away. Maya chuckled quietly. "You're scary when you do that." Naomi laughed softly. "Good." They left the restaurant soon after, but Naomi's mind stayed behind. That night, as she lay in bed, she scrolled through the restaurant's social media pages. Photos of smiling staff, happy customers, and slogans about equality and diversity. It all looked perfect on the surface, but she knew the truth. The next morning, sunlight poured into her room. Naomi dressed sharply, black slacks, a cream blouse, and a blazer. She tied her curls neatly and looked at herself in the mirror. Today wasn't just another day. Her father was coming to visit, and she planned to be there when he did. When she arrived at the restaurant around noon, the air was alive with energy. The staff scurried about, polishing glasses and arranging tables. Everyone was nervous. They always were when the CEO came to inspect. Naomi slipped in quietly, wearing sunglasses. No one recognized her at first. The same hostess from last night, Lily, a tall woman with icy blonde hair, was at the front desk. She smiled politely at Naomi, not recognizing her. "Good afternoon, miss. Do you have a reservation?" Naomi smiled faintly. "No. I just wanted to see if Mr. Robertson has arrived yet." Lily frowned slightly. "Oh, are you with the company?" "You could say that," Naomi replied coolly. Lily's smile faltered, but before she could ask more, a black SUV pulled up outside. Everyone turned as Mr. Alan Robertson stepped out, tall, distinguished, and dressed in his usual navy suit. He shook hands with the restaurant manager, Mr. Green, and walked in with an air of quiet authority. Naomi watched him, her heart tightening. He looked tired but proud. "Mr. Robertson," the manager said, beaming. "We're honored to have you. Everything's been running perfectly here." Naomi almost laughed at that. "Glad to hear it," her father said. "I like to drop by unannounced. You learn a lot that way." He scanned the room, nodding in approval. Then his gaze fell on Naomi. "Naomi?" he said in surprise. Lily and Mr. Green both turned, their faces blank with confusion. Naomi took off her sunglasses and smiled. "Hi, Dad." The silence was instant. Lily blinked rapidly, her eyes widening. Mr. Green's smile faltered. The waiter from last night froze mid-step, his mouth slightly open. Alan frowned slightly. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you," Naomi said calmly. "And to talk about what happened last night." Her father's brow furrowed. "What happened?" Naomi turned to face the staff, her expression unreadable. "Maybe you should ask them." Mr. Green looked nervous now. "Sir, I'm not sure what she's referring to." Naomi cut him off. "Someone offered to pay double if I had a black card." Her voice carried across the room. "Because they didn't believe I belonged here." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Alan's face hardened. What? Lily's voice trembled. Sir, it was just a misunderstanding. Naomi crossed her arms. No, it wasn't. The silence stretched. Alan's eyes darkened, his jaw tightening as he turned to the manager. Mr. Green, I think we need to have a serious conversation about what's going on in my restaurant. The color drained from Green's face. Yes, sir. Naomi stood still, her heart pounding. The truth was finally coming out, but it wasn't over yet. Because just then, a new voice cut through the tense silence. It was the man from last night, the same one who had made the cruel offer. He had returned, walking boldly through the front doors, his phone raised high. Hey, he shouted. That's her. The one who caused the scene last night. You people kicked me out for nothing. Everyone turned in shock. Naomi's blood ran cold. The man's eyes burned with anger as he pointed at her. I'm not leaving until I get an apology. Alan Robertson turned toward him slowly, his expression deadly calm. And in that moment Naomi knew. This was about to get ugly. The man's loud voice shattered the fragile calm in the restaurant like a dropped plate. Every head turned toward him as he marched in, his face red with fury, his phone camera already recording. Naomi's stomach tightened. She could feel her father stiffen beside her. Sir, you can't just walk in here, the hostess, Lily, said weakly, stepping in front of him. Oh, don't you start, the man snapped. You people humiliated me last night because of her. He pointed at Naomi again, his voice rising. I was just trying to enjoy my dinner, and this girl started drama for no reason. I was escorted out like I was some kind of criminal. Naomi's jaw clenched. You were kicked out because you insulted me. He scoffed. Insulted you? I made a joke. You people have no sense of humor these days. Maya, who had just walked in to join Naomi, froze near the door, recognizing him immediately. That's the guy, Naomi, she whispered, eyes wide. Naomi nodded, not taking her eyes off him. Her father, Alan Robertson, stepped forward. His calm voice filled the room. Sir, you said you made a joke? The man turned to him, still puffed up. Yeah. What, you're the manager or something? Alan smiled slightly, though his eyes were cold. Or something. The man gave an impatient huff. Look, I don't know what your problem is, but I don't like being embarrassed. I'm a loyal customer here. I spend money, good money, and your staff threw me out because some girl can't take a joke. Naomi folded her arms. You told me you'd pay double if I had a black card. That wasn't a joke. He waved his hand dismissively. You're being dramatic. Everyone laughs at stuff like that. It's just banter. Alan's expression darkened. No, he said quietly. It's not banter. It's racism. The man blinked. Excuse me. Alan took a step closer, his presence suddenly commanding the entire room. You judged her by her skin color. You assumed she couldn't afford to be here. You offered to pay double to prove it. That's not a joke, it's discrimination. The man gave a nervous laugh, glancing around as several diners whispered and pulled out their phones to record. Oh, come on. You're making this a big deal for nothing. Alan looked at Naomi, then back at the man. Do you know who she is? The man frowned. What does that matter? Alan's voice hardened. She's my daughter. The man froze, eyes widening. You're what? Alan's tone remained calm, but every word hit like a hammer. Naomi Robertson. My daughter. The daughter of the man who owns this restaurant and every branch of the Palmetto Grill across this state. A shocked murmur swept through the room. The man's mouth fell open. Wait, you're the CEO? Alan nodded once. That's right. The man's bravado evaporated instantly. His eyes darted from Naomi to the CEO, then to the phones recording him. Listen, I didn't mean anything by it. Naomi finally spoke, her voice calm but sharp as glass. You didn't mean anything, but you humiliated me in front of everyone. You made a racist comment, and now that the tables have turned, you're scared. The man swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Alan cut him off. Save it. You're banned from every Palmetto Grill location. Permanently. The man's eyes widened. You can't do that. I just did, Alan said. Security will escort you out. Within seconds, 2 security guards appeared. The man protested weakly, but they guided him firmly toward the exit as the diners began to clap softly. When the door shut behind him, silence hung heavy in the air. Naomi exhaled slowly. She hadn't realized how tense she'd been until now. Alan turned to the staff. Mr. Green, my office. Now. The manager paled. Sir, Now, Alan repeated, his tone low and dangerous. Naomi followed as her father strode toward the back office, his expression unreadable. Once the door closed behind them, the calm CEO demeanor cracked. What happened last night, Naomi? He asked quietly. Naomi recounted everything. The look on the waiter's face, the disbelief when she handed over her black card, the man's offer to pay double, and how everyone around had just watched in silence. Alan's face grew darker with every detail. When she finished, he sat back, pinching the bridge of his nose. I can't believe this happened here. In my restaurant. Naomi's voice softened. You always told me you built this place so people could feel welcome, no matter who they are. Alan looked up, guilt flickering in his eyes. And somehow, it's become the opposite. A knock on the door interrupted them. Mr. Green stepped in, his face pale and sweaty. Sir, I just want to say, I had no idea. Alan held up a hand. You didn't know your own staff humiliated a black customer in your restaurant? I swear I didn't. You didn't because you didn't care to look. Alan's voice was cold now. You let a culture grow here where prejudice goes unchecked. That ends today. Mr. Green swallowed hard. Sir, please. You're suspended, Alan said flatly. Effective immediately. The man's face crumpled. Sir. Security will escort you out. As Green stumbled out of the office, Naomi leaned back in her chair. You didn't have to do that, she murmured. Yes, I did, Alan replied. People need to know there are consequences. Naomi sighed. You can't fire every person who acts this way, Dad. There will always be people who see color first. Alan looked at her, his expression softening. Then maybe it's time someone in this company starts changing how things are run. Naomi frowned slightly. What do you mean? Alan smiled faintly. I've been thinking about bringing you into the company more seriously. You've been shadowing me for months. Maybe it's time you start managing a branch. Naomi blinked. Wait, you want me to run one of the restaurants? He nodded. Yes. You've got the heart for it. And after what happened, I think this place could use a leader who understands what it feels like to be treated unfairly. Naomi's chest tightened with emotion. Dad, I don't know if I'm ready for that. He chuckled softly. You'll learn. I did. Before Naomi could answer, there was a knock at the door again. It was the waiter from last night. He stood nervously in the doorway, clutching his apron. Mr. Robertson, I just wanted to apologize. I was wrong. I shouldn't have judged her. Alan looked at Naomi. What do you think? Naomi studied the waiter's face. He looked genuinely ashamed, his eyes downcast. Everyone makes mistakes, she said finally. But the real test is whether you learn from them. The waiter nodded quickly. I will. I swear. Alan gave him a firm nod. Then you'll have a chance to prove it. When he left, Naomi turned to her father with a small smile. You handled that well. Alan smiled back. You did too. Naomi leaned back in her chair, finally letting herself relax. It felt like a storm had passed. But just as she began to feel the weight lifting, Alan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted instantly. Naomi frowned. What is it? Alan hesitated, then turned the phone around. It was a video already going viral online. The man from last night had uploaded his recording of the confrontation, twisting the story. The caption read, Racist restaurant CEO humiliates loyal customer to protect his daughter. Naomi's heart dropped. Alan's jaw tightened. They're making it look like we were the problem. Naomi grabbed the phone, scrolling through the comments. Thousands of people were arguing, some defending her, others accusing her father of abusing power. Her hands trembled. "Dad, this is bad." Alan stood, his eyes blazing with quiet resolve. "Then we'll fix it. But we'll do it the right way." Naomi looked up at him, unsure. "What do you mean?" Alan's voice was steady. "We're going public with the truth. Every detail." Naomi swallowed. "You're going to tell everyone I'm your daughter?" "Yes," he said firmly. "It's time people knew who you are, and what really happened here." But neither of them noticed the shadow standing just outside the office door. Lily, the hostess, was listening, her phone recording every word. And as she quietly slipped away, a sly smile spread across her face. The sun had barely risen the next morning when Naomi's phone began to buzz non-stop. Text after text, notification after notification, each one more overwhelming than the last. Her story, or rather the twisted version of it, had spread across the internet overnight. The man's video now had over 5 million views, shared by blogs and gossip pages that didn't bother to fact-check anything. The headline that appeared everywhere made her stomach turn. CEO's daughter uses power to humiliate paying customer at Palmetto Grill. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, her heart racing. She opened her social media and froze. Thousands of comments filled her inbox, some hateful, some supportive, all intense. Entitled brat. Good for her, stand your ground. She should apologize publicly. Another spoiled rich kid hiding behind her daddy's money. Naomi felt sick. She tossed her phone aside and buried her face in her hands. It was like watching her whole life spiral out of control, and she hadn't even done anything wrong. A knock at the door made her look up. "Naomi." It was her father. Alan stepped inside, dressed neatly as always, but there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "You saw it too?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "It's everywhere." Naomi's voice cracked slightly. "They think I'm the villain, Dad." Alan sat beside her, putting a hand on her shoulder. "People always believe what's loudest first. But the truth always wins, eventually." Naomi shook her head. "It's not fair. He's the one who was racist. And now the whole world thinks we bullied him." Alan sighed deeply. "That's why we're holding a press conference today. I've already spoken to our PR team." Naomi's eyes widened. "A press conference?" "Yes. We'll tell our side, clearly and calmly. We'll show them the security footage from that night. People need to see what really happened." Naomi hesitated. "You really think it'll make a difference?" He smiled faintly. "It always does when you speak with truth." Naomi looked down, her fingers trembling. "What if they twist it again?" Alan stood. "Then we stand taller." Naomi nodded slowly. She wanted to believe him. But deep inside, fear still gnawed at her. By noon, the Palmetto Grill headquarters in downtown Atlanta was packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. The restaurant's name was trending online, again, and not for good reasons. Outside, Naomi stood beside her father as flashes of cameras lit up their faces. She wore a plain black dress and minimal makeup, simple, sincere. She didn't want to look like she was trying to impress anyone. Alan stepped up to the podium first. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice calm but firm. "There's been a lot said in the last 24 hours about what happened at our restaurant. I'm here to clear the air." He glanced at Naomi, then continued. "My daughter, Naomi Robertson, was a customer at our Buckhead location when she was subjected to a racist comment by another guest. That guest offered to pay double if she had a black card, implying she couldn't afford to dine there. When I learned of this, I took immediate action." The reporters scribbled notes furiously. Alan went on. "Unfortunately, a video was later posted online by that same guest, edited to make it appear as though we harassed him. That video is false and misleading. Today, we'll show you the full, unedited footage." He motioned to his assistant, who played the security recording on the big screen behind them. The room fell silent as the real events unfolded: the man's sneer, his mocking words, Naomi's calm response, the staff's awkward silence, and finally, Alan's intervention. By the time it ended, several people in the room looked ashamed of how they judged her. Alan stepped back to the podium. "At the Palmetto Grill, we don't tolerate racism from anyone. We believe in respect, equality, and accountability. That's what this family stands for." He looked at Naomi. "And that's what my daughter stands for." Naomi took a slow breath and stepped forward. Dozens of microphones were now inches from her face. Her heart pounded, but she met every camera with quiet strength. "I didn't want any of this," she began softly. "I went to dinner with my friend. I just wanted to eat and relax. But one comment reminded me how quickly people can decide who you are based on your skin." The room was still. "I didn't tell anyone I was the CEO's daughter because I wanted to be treated like everyone else. But now, I see that even that isn't enough for some people." Her voice trembled slightly, but she steadied herself. "I'm not here to attack anyone. I just want people to think before they judge. Because you never know who you're really talking to, or how much your words can hurt." The cameras flashed brighter. Alan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, Naomi." As they left the stage, Naomi felt a flicker of relief. Maybe this was the start of things getting better. But that hope didn't last long. By the time they got back to the car, Alan's phone buzzed again, this time with a message from his assistant. "Sir, you need to see this." Alan frowned and opened the link. His face hardened instantly. Naomi leaned over. "What is it?" The screen showed another video, one secretly recorded by Lily, the hostess. In the video, Naomi's voice could be heard saying, "You can't fire every person who acts this way, Dad. There will always be people who see color first." But Lily had edited it to make it sound like Naomi was dismissing racism entirely. The caption read, "CEO's daughter admits racism isn't a big deal. Was the apology fake?" Naomi's heart sank like a stone. Alan cursed under his breath. "She recorded us. That snake recorded our private conversation." Naomi stared out the window, her chest tight. "This is never going to stop, is it?" Alan clenched his fist. "Oh, it'll stop. Because I'm about to make sure of it." That evening, Alan called an emergency board meeting. The restaurant chain's top executives gathered in the sleek glass conference room. Tension hung thick in the air. Alan stood at the head of the table. "One of our employees leaked and doctored a private video conversation," he began. "This is a breach of trust, and I intend to find out who else was involved." Some executives shifted nervously. Others looked genuinely shocked. Naomi sat quietly beside him, trying to stay composed as whispers filled the room. Alan continued, "This isn't just about my daughter. This is about integrity. We're going to clean house, every location, every department. I don't care how long it takes." Naomi glanced at him. "Dad, you can't do this alone." He smiled faintly. "That's why you're going to help me." Naomi blinked. "Me?" "Yes," he said firmly. "You wanted to make a difference? This is your chance. I'm appointing you as interim operations head for all public relations and staff ethics reviews. You'll lead this." Naomi stared at him, stunned. "You want me to lead the cleanup?" "Yes. Because you're the one who lived through it." She hesitated. "What if people think it's just you protecting me?" Alan's eyes softened. "Then we'll let your actions prove them wrong." Naomi swallowed hard, her heart racing. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll do it." Alan nodded. "Good. Because we start tomorrow." As the meeting ended and everyone filed out, Naomi stayed behind, staring at the empty chairs. The weight of what was coming pressed heavily on her shoulders. She was about to lead a company-wide reform, while fighting a social media storm that painted her as a villain. But before she could even begin, her phone vibrated with another message. It was from an unknown number. "You think you can expose me? Be careful what you say next. Some secrets aren't meant to come out." Naomi froze, staring at the message. She looked up at her father, her voice barely a whisper. "Dad, someone's threatening me." Alan turned sharply. "What?" Naomi handed him the phone. Alan's face darkened as he read it. "Looks like this goes deeper than just a viral video." Naomi's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Alan looked toward the darkened window, his reflection staring back at him. "I mean," he said quietly, "someone inside this company doesn't just want to embarrass us, they want to destroy us." The next morning, the air in Atlanta felt heavier, as though the city itself could sense what was about to unfold. Naomi barely slept. The threatening message replayed in her mind over and over: "Some secrets aren't meant to come out." What secret? What could possibly be hidden beneath all this chaos? Alan had already called in cybersecurity experts to trace the message, but the number had been encrypted and rerouted through multiple foreign servers. Whoever sent it knew what they were doing. Still, Naomi refused to let fear paralyze her. She dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, professional, calm, but strong, and headed to the headquarters early. By 8 a.m., she was sitting in a meeting room surrounded by folders, employee reports, and a list of all current staff under investigation. Her task was massive. Review each complaint, cross-check evidence, and decide who stayed and who left. It wasn't just about image anymore. It was about cleaning a culture poisoned from the inside. Alan entered the room quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to her. "You're here early." Naomi smiled faintly. "Couldn't sleep." He nodded, sitting across from her. "Neither could I." They shared a brief silence before Alan leaned forward. "The PR team says the new video's damage is spreading. Hashtags are trending against us again. But there's something else." Naomi looked up. "What is it?" Alan slid a folder across the table. Inside were screenshots of internal emails, anonymous ones, sent from an employee's computer to a tabloid journalist. Each message contained private company information, including early drafts of Alan's statements and even some of Naomi's personal data. Naomi's eyes widened. "They leaked this too? But how?" Alan sighed. "We're tracing it. But the IT department thinks whoever's behind this is still in the company. Possibly someone high up." Naomi frowned, flipping through the papers. One line in an email caught her eye. "If we expose what Alan did 10 years ago, no one will trust his so-called ethics campaign." Her head snapped up. "Dad, what's this?" Alan's jaw tightened. "It's nothing you need to worry about." Naomi studied him carefully. "You said that last time someone tried to help us. What are they talking about?" Alan hesitated, then leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Years ago, before we expanded the chain, I had to make tough calls. One of our partners wanted to take the company in a direction that went against everything we stood for. I pushed him out." "Pushed him out how?" Naomi pressed. Alan met her gaze. "Legally. But it cost him everything, his shares, his reputation. His name was Daniel Cross." Naomi frowned. "And you think he's behind this?" "I wouldn't be surprised," Alan said grimly. "He's tried to come after us before, spreading rumors, hiring fake accounts to tarnish our brand. But this," he tapped the folder, "this feels different. Smarter. More personal." Naomi leaned back slowly. "So, someone from inside might be working with him?" Alan nodded. "Exactly. And if that's true, we're not just fighting online hate, we're fighting a coordinated attack." Before Naomi could respond, the conference room door opened and Lily walked in. Her face was pale, her hands clutching a tablet. Naomi's body tensed instantly. "Lily," Alan said coolly, "to what do we owe the pleasure?" Lily swallowed hard. "Mr. Robertson, Ms. Robertson, I came to apologize." Naomi folded her arms. For which part? Recording me or editing the video to make me look like I don't care about racism? Lily's voice cracked. I didn't mean for things to go this far. Someone paid me. I thought it was just to post the clip, not to ruin your lives. Alan's expression darkened. Who paid you? Lily hesitated, her eyes darting nervously between them. I don't know his real name. He just called himself DC and said he was an investor who wanted to expose the truth. He sent the money through crypto. I swear, that's all I know. Naomi's heart pounded. DC Daniel Cross. Alan stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You're saying you took a bribe from the man who's been trying to destroy this family for a decade? Tears filled Lily's eyes. I didn't know. He said it was just for awareness, to show hypocrisy. I didn't realize it would turn into all this. Naomi exhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. Then help us fix it. Lily looked up, surprised. What? Help us prove he's behind this, Naomi said firmly. If you cooperate, if you give us everything, every message, every payment receipt, we can clear your name too. Alan looked at his daughter, a flicker of pride crossing his face. Lily hesitated for a long moment, then nodded weakly. Okay. I'll help you. Good, Alan said. You're staying in this building until our legal team takes your statement. Lily nodded again, trembling. I understand. As soon as she left the room, Naomi turned to her father. This is it, Dad. If she's telling the truth, we can trace the transactions and finally expose him. Alan nodded, but his expression was grave. Yes, but if Daniel Cross really is back in the picture. Naomi tilted her head. What? Alan looked out the window, his voice low. Then this is only the beginning. He doesn't just want to destroy our company, Naomi. He wants revenge. Naomi's chest tightened. For what happened 10 years ago? Alan nodded slowly. For everything. That evening, as Naomi drove home from the office, a black SUV appeared behind her on the highway. Its headlights stayed locked on her car, too close for comfort. She changed lanes, it followed. She slowed down, it slowed too. Her palms began to sweat. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, her heart hammering. Finally, she turned abruptly into a crowded gas station. The SUV hesitated, then sped past. Naomi let out a shaky breath, her hands trembling on the wheel. Her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. This time there was a photo attached. It was of her and Alan leaving the press conference the day before. A red circle was drawn around Naomi's face, and below it one line of text. You can't protect him forever. Naomi's stomach dropped. Whoever this was, they weren't just threatening her reputation anymore. They were watching her. And she had a terrible feeling that the secret her father tried to bury 10 years ago was about to surface. Rain hammered down on Atlanta that night, turning the streets into rivers of silver. Thunder rolled across the sky like a drumbeat of warning. Inside the Robertson home, the air was thick with tension. Naomi sat beside her father, Alan, still shaken from the photo that had arrived moments earlier, the one with the words, "The truth always finds its way home." Alan's jaw was tight, his hand gripping the armrest of his chair. "He's here," he said quietly. Naomi turned to the window. Through the curtain of rain, a figure stood by the gate, tall, still, an umbrella in hand. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Alan rose slowly. "Stay here, Naomi." She grabbed his arm. "No, I'm not letting you go out there alone." Before he could argue, another thunderclap boomed, and the front lights flickered, then went out completely. The house was swallowed in darkness. Alan reached for his phone to use its flashlight. They could hear the soft crunch of footsteps approaching the porch. Naomi whispered, "Dad, call the police." But before he could dial, a loud voice came from outside. "Alan Robertson, you ruined my life. Now I'm here to take yours." Alan's face went pale. "Daniel." Naomi's heart raced. "Dad, don't go out there." Alan stepped closer to the door, raising his voice. Daniel, listen to me. This isn't the way. A loud crack split the air, not thunder this time, but a gunshot. The front window shattered, glass flying across the room. Naomi screamed, ducking behind the couch. Alan dropped to the floor, his breath heavy. Dad, she cried, crawling to him. Dad, are you hit? He shook his head. I'm fine. Stay down. Outside, the sound of tires screeched as a car engine roared to life. Whoever fired the shot was already fleeing. Naomi ran to the window and peered through the shattered glass, but the rain made it impossible to see. The black SUV sped away into the night, red taillights fading into the storm. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. When the police arrived, they found the bullet lodged in a wall, just inches from where Alan had been standing. Naomi's body trembled as officers swarmed the property, taking photos and checking security cameras. But then, one of the officers called out, "Sir, you might want to see this." He was holding something he'd found near the porch, a waterproof envelope, sealed tightly and stamped with the initials DC. Alan opened it cautiously. Inside were printed documents and a small flash drive. Naomi frowned. That's the same name Lily said paid her. Alan nodded. Daniel Cross. The lead detective took the evidence to a police laptop and opened the drive. A series of files appeared, video recordings, emails, and financial statements. But this time, they weren't about Alan. They were about Daniel. The drive contained proof that Daniel had orchestrated everything. The blackmail, the fake documents, the crypto payments to Lily, even the online hate campaign designed to destroy Alan's image. And the videos? They showed Daniel himself bragging to an associate about finally making Alan Robertson pay. The detective whistled softly. Looks like he just handed us his own confession. Naomi stared at the screen, barely able to breathe. He recorded himself? Alan nodded slowly, relief and disbelief washing over him. He must have dropped this during the chaos. Within hours, a warrant was issued. By morning, news stations across the country reported the story. Former business partner arrested for blackmail, fraud, and attempted assault on CEO Alan Robertson. The headlines shifted from scandal to justice. The truth had come out. For the first time in weeks, Naomi felt like she could breathe again. 2 days later, she stood beside her father in the same restaurant where it all began, the Larkstone. The same chandeliers glittered overhead. The same polished marble floors reflected the soft light. But everything felt different now. Reporters had begged for interviews, but Alan wanted just one thing: to face the world on his own terms. The restaurant had reopened for a charity gala in honor of the company's Diversity and Fairness Initiative, with proceeds going toward scholarships for underprivileged youth. Alan stood at the podium, his voice steady but emotional. A few weeks ago, I was reminded how easily we can lose sight of who we are, not just as a company, but as people. My daughter faced discrimination here in this very room. That moment showed us what still exists in our world, and how much work we still have to do. But it also reminded me that strength isn't found in silence, it's found in truth. The crowd applauded. Naomi stood off to the side, tears shining in her eyes. She could feel the pride and respect radiating through the room. After the speech, guests came forward, including several of the same waiters who had been there that night. One young man, trembling slightly, approached Naomi. "Ms. Robertson," he said softly, "I was one of the waiters that night. I didn't say anything when they mocked you, and I should have. I'm sorry." Naomi looked at him for a long moment, then smiled kindly. "Thank you for saying that. It takes courage to own up to something like that." He nodded, relief washing over his face. Alan walked over, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You handled that beautifully." Naomi smiled. "You taught me well." As the event went on, music filled the room, laughter replaced whispers, and people from all backgrounds mingled freely. For the first time, the restaurant truly represented what it was always meant to, a place of equality. Later that night, Naomi and Alan stepped outside onto the balcony overlooking the city skyline. The storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and cool. The moon glowed over the wet streets below. Alan exhaled deeply. You know, I used to think protecting you meant keeping you away from all this. But I see now, you were never the one who needed protecting. You were the one who reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. Naomi smiled softly. You raised me to never bow to hate, to never let racism or lies define me. You did that, Dad. Alan's eyes glistened. You've become stronger than I ever imagined. They stood together in silence for a while, watching the lights of Atlanta shimmer in the distance. Then Naomi turned to him with a gentle smile. I guess in the end, the truth really does find its way home. Alan chuckled quietly. It does, sweetheart. And sometimes it even knocks on the door with a flash drive. Naomi laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. Below them, the city moved on, cars, laughter, life. But something in the air felt lighter now. The weight of lies and hate had lifted. And though scars remained, they had survived, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. As they walked back inside, Alan glanced once more at his daughter. The same girl who had once been mocked for her skin, now the woman who had faced an empire of lies and won. He smiled. You know, Naomi, I think the world's finally ready to see you for who you really are. Naomi looked up at him with quiet pride. The CEO's daughter? Alan shook his head. No, the woman who changed everything. And with that, they stepped back into the light, leaving the storm behind. If you believe powerful stories like this deserve to be heard, don't just watch, be part of the movement. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of truth. Every video we share shines a light on injustice and amplifies voices that must be heard. So don't stop here. Keep watching, keep sharing, and keep standing strong with us against racism. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Your support truly makes a difference.